So, what is a counter deed? A lawful sworn declaration used to rebut or correct a presumption. We know that the government works off presumptions, right? They presume you to be a United States citizen. They presume you to be born in the United States. They make presumptions. And they did that by way of the 14th Amendment, born or naturalized into the United States. Restores the lawful record from which government derives. Presumption certificate, marriage license, passport, name in all caps. And all right, everyone. Let me just do a mic check. I always got to do that. Make sure the mic is working good. Um, Welcome to another episode of the Unbound Soul with my special co-host Raquel. First of all, I want to apologize. Yesterday, I didn't get to do a show because I took my grandchildren to King's Dominion, and we didn't leave there till like almost 7. So there was no way I was going to get back in time to do a show. So I will be doing a show on the birthright citizenship, the whole controversy with Trump getting rid of that, and what that really means, and does it mean anything for you? So I will be breaking that down tomorrow. Actually, I'm gonna do a show tomorrow to make up for yesterday's me not doing a show. So Raquel has a special topic for us to talk about today, and I'm gonna let her take the lead because she's well prepared for this. And there you have it.
Hola, everybody. I don't know about well prepared, but I'm going to share from my heart. So, as I was telling Akeem before we went on the air, this is going to be my mug from here on out. Let's see, right there.
Believe it.
Believe in who you are.
Right.
All right. So, I'm hoping every time you see me take a sip, your subconscious mind remembers that and you get that reminder of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I would say actually have faith in who you are more than believe.
Right.
I think that's more powerful.
Yes, having faith
Um,
in who you are is very important. Yes, I would
mhm.
agree.
So today, I want to go over 1 Timothy 4 1 3. Okay. Now, this has to do with how we are in society and everything we're being bombarded with. And I think this
Mm.
is so important for us to discuss and see how it connects to so many things in our society and our lives. It reads, "The Spirit clearly says that in later times some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. Such teachings come through hypocritical liars whose consciences have been seared as with a hot iron. They forbid to marry and order them to abstain from certain foods." Now, foods, it's not just foods, it's things that you consume, whether it be visually, auditorily, even, your breath, everything, right?
Mm.
Which God created to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and who know the truth.
Right.
So, those that know the truth, they really are going after because they want everyone to be under control,
Right. Yeah. I
right?
would agree
So,
with this. But go ahead.
mhm. Yeah, so this hit me really hard because I saw something the other day of someone that worked for either Netflix or Google or one of those platforms.
Mm.
And she said that the only main obstacle to them having total control is sleep.
Yeah, yeah.
So sleep to them is their nemesis. It is their kryptonite.
Hmm. Right.
How sick is that? They already have polluted the water, they polluted the air, they polluted the soil, they
Mhm.
polluted our clothes, just everything. And then they want to take over our sleep. They want us to be zombies constantly scrolling on these screens,
Right.
right? So, what happens when we sleep?
We dream, possibly most of us dream. Although
Mm-hmm.
one person in particular said they don't dream. I don't understand that, but yeah, we dream. But I think even in that, those radio waves, those waves are getting into our sleep, and we're picking up signals there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, if anyone follows the work of Dolores Cannon and people of the like, you also astroplane. It's when you can leave your
Yeah,
body.
actually, yeah, we astroplane, yes. Yeah.
So, if you can't leave your body because you're scrolling this whole time,
Mm,
are you going to be able to reach your divinity?
mm,
Are you going to start questioning what's happening? For a lot of people, no, because they're so caught up in these screens. Oh, and
mm.
before I forget, do you have the number to put up so people can call in?
Oh yeah, yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, that's
because I
what's
was letting people know that they can call
have
in.
a teammate to remind you of stuff. Yeah, you're right. And I have to actually activate that. I'm still. Here we go. There's the number.
There we go.
All right. While
All
you're
right. So if
doing that,
anyone wants to call in, um, but yeah. So when you look at everything that they're putting on these screens,
mm-hmm.
a lot of it isn't for our good. So this woman that kept on talking said, they want to create algorithms, and
Right.
algorithms are not alive. They're just analytical, they're logical, they're rational, but it's not alive.
Right.
So they want something like that to take over, override our minds. So
Mm,
we no longer think independently. We're just fed what they think we want. And we think we want it because it keeps on popping up and it's constantly in our psyche. So, we're just like, oh, it's familiar. It's kind of like confirmation bias. You keep on looking for it, right?
right.
And then you don't question anything. And then you just get poisoned slowly, slowly, slowly. Again, like I said last week, the frog in the pot, slowly it gets, heats up more and more. And that's what happens here.
Right.
You get addicted, maybe you're on the phone an hour, then next week 2 hours, following week 3 hours, and then you can't even control yourself. It is an addiction, you
That's
know.
crazy because you're right because if you look at it, I know I've caught myself. Your day is gone, and most of it's gone to looking at your phone. Whether it be legitimate calls like business and things like that, it most of it goes to that, and it's crazy if you're not paying attention. You deliberately got to put your phone down. It's like at one time I took certain apps off my phone, so once those apps were gone, I used my phone a lot less. So,
Hmm.
um, you're right. They have created things that capture our attention, take our attention off our own creativity.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Have you heard of Dr. Jack Cruz?
No, I never heard of them.
So he's a neurosurgeon.
Mhm.
Anyone watching this, go ahead and go on YouTube and look up Jack Cruz,
Mm.
Kruse, and he's got so much information.
Right.
He talks about the blue light
Mhm.
and how the blue light, it what it does is it interferes with the reward track system, with the dopamine reward track system in our
Mhm.
brains.
Mhm.
So if it can infiltrate that, then we're constantly being manipulated by this blue light that's on our screens. And
Mm,
not only the blue light on our screens, the blue lights in our light bulbs,
mm,
everywhere you go, the street lights, you're going to be manipulated.
right.
And so what happens is you just become so addicted because dopamine is very addicting. It's like when you're taking heroin or any other drug, it's a dopamine hit. Like people need who gamble a lot. Every time they gamble, they get that dopamine hit. And then
Mm,
when they're not gambling, they crash. So they just want more and more and more of that hit.
right.
So these blue lights,
But it never gets fulfilled.
it never gets fulfilled, but you still want more and more and
Mm,
more. And they've got you.
mm-hmm.
They've got you. So they
So
keep
what do you
on
think
giving
that
you.
that they you if you're an addict or someone who's has a compulsion to do something, let's say you use the example gambling,
Mhm.
is it they looking for the dopamine hit, right? The hope of winning something and what that feels like,
Hmm.
or just with the phones, the hope of finding something entertaining
Yeah.
to,
Or how many likes? I got a lot of likes. I
yeah.
got a lot of
That,
views.
that I think that's a big one. That people are more
Hmm.
interested in getting some likes than actually getting. Excuse me, let me shut that off. And then actually getting real content.
Hmm.
Um, that's my fucking software. All right, there we go. That's off. Um, but what's the root of that? Like, why people are seeking entertainment? That's big, or even just seeking likes. What is it about the individual that these things become an obsession?
Well, that's when, again, with Timothy, where it says the Spirit clearly says that in later in times they will abandon faith. A lot of people have abandoned their faith. Hence why I have faith in who you are,
Right,
not faith in this thing.
right, right.
Right? If people don't have a spiritual practice, it's they're going to be affected. And this has actually been studied. There was a podcast with Mel Robbins.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with Mel Robbins?
I've heard the name, not really
Yeah.
watched a lot of the content.
So she had a research on, I don't remember who, I don't know what her name is, but she was saying that people who have some sort of practice, whether it be breathing, meditation, going to church,
Hmm.
they are all happier
Hmm.
and they're less dependent on things like these devices.
Right.
And so people are so isolated, especially after the lockdowns. People are okay with being isolated. Not everybody. Some people went the opposite direction. They're like, this is terrible. No, I gotta have community. But
Right.
think about how they've been trying to break up the community with the divide and conquer.
Hmm.
Even the children, like I mentioned last week, worry about yourself, not your friend.
Right.
So it's just myself, 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 the ego, the ego, the ego, not the communicate, not the community, not cooperate, being in a cooperation with other people. I have to do it.
Right.
I have to take care of myself. I have to worry about myself.
Hmm.
Um, and then they're not even reaching out to their community with church,
No.
or anything to that degree.
Well, the reason why it's effective in what they're doing is they all they need is a small amount of people to fall for it.
Hmm.
And now you got to shift in how people do things. Like with the when you know what happened all of those years ago, people put on the stuff to cover their face.
Hmm.
It's a small amount of people just jump right in. Then eventually, the people that didn't want to do it started to do it and just say, I just want to make my life easy. I'm gonna do it. And now, today, even now, all of these years later, people are still wearing those things.
Oh, I know. I see them all the time, and
Yeah,
I don't understand.
and I'm like, help me understand what. why are you doing it now?
Especially in the summer. You can't
Right,
breathe.
right, right. I was just testing to make sure everything was working on our end, how we're coming through. So it's back to what you said earlier. People are believing in false words, false doctrine, even false idols because then themselves they don't they know these things are not right, but they still do it on a just in case basis. And I attribute that to how we've been indoctrinated since the beginning of when we came into existence here. And we
Mm-hmm.
get indoctrinated by our own family first, then we sent off to a school system and then get more indoctrination or reinforcement of the indoctrination. And at some point, we lose sight of or lose focus on using our own God given brain power.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of the stuff that we're doing is senseless, but we do it. Like for instance, you go to work and you agree to a salary, and you also agree to someone taking out their cut before you even get to touch the money you worked for.
Mm-hmm.
You did all of the work, and someone gets to take your money and give it away to someone else. Most people don't even understand the laws that are connected to that transaction, what's
Mm-hmm.
really going on. Another thing is, and I've been talking about this, how the organ donor thing. People are happy to give away their organs to a facility that is not going to give it away to someone else that need it. They're going to sell it and make millions of dollars, free money
Mm-hmm.
off of body parts that someone gave them. And still that person that donated their organs have to be has funeral expenses. They're not
Mm-hmm.
going to pay that.
Mm-hmm.
But we do it. It's crazy when you think about it. Like, wait a minute, we're giving. You're saying, oh, I want to help someone out. You're not helping someone out because that person has got to pay for that very organ that they're going to transplant.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting that for free.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to go to the person that can afford it. So, are you really? This is the type of critical thinking that's been stripped from people through things like our phones, and first it was the television and
First it
news.
was radio. First it was radio.
Radio.
So think about
Mhm.
with War of the Worlds, how
Yeah.
everyone literally thought they were going to be invaded. There was
Right.
mass hysteria,
Right. Right.
and then you bring in this television programming.
And religion, some of the religions are guilty of creating mass hysteria. Like,
Mm-hmm.
won't be specific about the particular sect, but they predicted 18 times that the world was coming to the end, that God was coming to destroy all of the wicked and bring about his paradise conditions on earth, and then raise people from the dead. They would your loved ones would come back 18 times. And the first few times they did it, people actually sold all of their belongings because some guy in his interpretation said this was going to happen at that time. Don't go and get bogged down with creating businesses and supporting your family and things because the end is near.
Mm-hmm.
I am now 55 and I've been hearing that message since I was 6.
Mm.
So a whole what 5 decades go by, and
Wow.
5.5 decades, and we still and they were doing that way before I was born, like since 1914. So, but for some reason, people still hold on to these teachings, hoping, giving up
Mm-hmm.
their whole life on a hope. And that's the same thing with these phones. You're flashing through it, hoping you can find something that's going to entertain you and make you feel good,
Hmm.
because you don't really know how to make your own self feel good or be whole within yourself. Because a person that's whole within themselves wouldn't need don't need these things. We don't need that, you know. So yeah,
Yeah. And these same churches are receiving kickbacks from another group
yeah,
to deliver a certain message to support a certain state
right.
that's unaliving God knows how many people, but it's around 20,000 children at this point. And
Wow.
there's been evidence of that,
Mm,
that they're giving kickbacks to pastors for people to support this one nation state.
that's ridiculous. That's and
It,
then you sit
yeah.
back. How does this happen? A lot of it happens because we allow it to happen. But we well, people. I like. I was driving on the highway when I was going to take my children to the amusement park, my grandchildren to the amusement park. People over the highways just marching and holding up signs. I don't recall ever that a sign changes anything. If you look at any big change in any country, it all always came by some actual physical force. That's how we got change.
Yes, but it implants an idea or
Mm,
lets you know what if what you believe is being supported by other people.
right.
So it's more of a either a reminder or something to inspire or to irk other people.
Mm,
It is impactful because there's still words, and words do have a
mm,
big impact. Um, but this has an even bigger impact,
right. Right.
and they know that. So
That's why they, when you say something that's impactful, they hide, they cut it off. What do they call it? Ban it.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm so guess who owns the patent on this technology that destroys the dopamine reward tracks in the brain?
Who is that? Uh,
Google and Meta.
Wow. Google and Meta.
Mhm.
That's not surprising.
It's not surprising, but it's these are these are really big platforms
Hmm.
that have a global reach,
Right.
and then you have the algorithms, and it's it's really frightening that they have this much control just with
Well,
a
they have
patent,
control
just with a
because they're
patent.
allowed to have that control.
Hmm.
They're allowed to have that control because they are there to serve a purpose. Like I believe, say, Facebook and things like that are just big data mining companies
That's exactly what they are.
to the guise of you sharing your information with everybody because you're sharing everything with them on that platform, and they just it's being stored somewhere, you know.
Right.
And
They
so
don't
that
need the they don't need to abide by Fourth Amendment
right,
protections because
you
you're
gave
giving it away.
it there, yeah, right.
You're consenting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting. um, and it's the same thing, yeah, with the light bulbs. It's
Uh-huh.
just everywhere, so you're being dumbed down
Mm-hmm.
with just literally every step that you take. You're walking down
Yeah.
the street,
The day
you
you
got
were
those blue
being
lights.
down, from the
What
day
was that?
you're born, you're being
Hmm.
down into
Yeah.
this. Yeah,
Right.
they reduce you down to a piece of paper. They
To a
make
profit,
right.
to a commodity.
Yes, you become your essence become a piece of paper to them that has become something that they monetize and continue to monetize throughout your life
Hmm. Hmm.
in several ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And the type of content that they're putting out there.
Mm-hmm.
So have you noticed the level of depravity has increased throughout the world?
Yeah. Over. They did that slowly.
Slowly, but then in the last since 2023, since fall of 2023, you know what I'm talking about. We've seen so much. We've seen people being unalived, live streamed,
Mm-hmm. But they made
and
movies about that first.
they made movies about it. But now, you see, but
Now,
this is in your
real.
hand all the time.
Right. Right.
The movie, you have to sit down, you have to take time. This is, you literally get little snippets
Well, my point is,
of this.
it made the
Mhm.
movies to get you ready for this, to
Right.
get you primed to be able to accept it as something as part of your life.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah.
You get that programming. It's,
Mm,
you're that frog, little by little, more as the generations go on, there's going to be more exposure. So you're being exposed to so much depravity. Now
mm,
you see people feel like it's okay to hurt others here in the States
mm,
because it's in their psyche. They're watching in the live stream of people being unalived and not abiding by law.
right. Mm-hmm.
So they're like, well, if they can do it, we can do it. Other
Right.
countries are starting to do it with much more intensity. Like there was it hush hush in some ways, but now it's just like, yeah, well, if they're doing it loud and proud, so can we.
Mm-hmm. And then on top of them being the live streaming of people being unalive, you have the people who are recording it. They're because they want to get their likes and get their viral moment.
Well, those people in particular who are recording it are not, from my understanding, because I do have contact with people in that area.
Uh-huh.
Well, the people who are being unalived are live streaming it so you can report it because the journalists, are under attack.
Right.
Then you have the people who are unaliving, they're the ones that want the likes. I mean, the platforms that they're on is and how much attention they're getting is really very concerning for me.
Mm,
And I think it would be concerning for everyone, um, because people are literally making fun of um, people losing their lives, losing their children.
mm,
There was a movie. I wish I could remember the movie. There was a movie that came out, I think, in the early 2000s.
mm,
And this was like at the beginning of YouTube or just before YouTube,
mm,
where this man started harming people on camera. And he would say, like, once it gets to this point, like, once there's a
think
thousand
I know what
viewers,
you're talking about. Yeah, yeah. It's gonna
yeah,
go off. Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to hurt this person. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that.
Right.
I remember watching that. I was very young. And I was like, this is disturbing. And they're telling us something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically like, even though people didn't want to see someone get hurt,
Right.
they wanted to know what was going to happen next.
Mm,
Like if it was a movie,
right.
right?
Because
And people are literally losing their lives.
trauma is a stimulant, and
Yeah.
because we come into this world traumatized, because they traumatize us at birth. It
Hmm.
be That's your first introduction to being traumatized,
Hmm.
and then you
Hmm.
continue to get that reinforcement because throughout your life, but also you get the reinforcement through media because the media only talks about the bad stuff for the most part, right? Oh,
Hmm.
12 people got killed, somebody got murdered, someone got raped, and you hear all of the negative stuff. Every now and then they'll throw in a positive note, but it's very minute compared to all of the traumatizing information they just disseminated throughout the broadcast.
Hmm.
So all of that, how do I want to put that? All of those negative reinforcements are being put on you throughout your life,
Hmm.
and so
Hmm.
now that we're here at the point that the more technology we get, the more violence you're gonna see. because it's not being used for something, positive. When people want to see the arguments, the fights, the drama, the someone cursing someone out, even stuff they call pranks, the really crazy pranks that
Oh
they
God, those are so annoying.
yeah.
And
So
there's so many people who have channels for pranks and they have so many followers and they make so much money. So people see, oh, they're getting rewarded for it. So we should do the same thing.
right, and some of those pranks can get you killed. Get someone killed. Some of the things I've seen, just going up to strangers and doing, things to someone that they're not even expecting. And then a lot of people are carrying around guns, so you gotta be careful who you're running up on playing these types of pranks.
Right, right.
So
Candid camera was cool because it was, you had fun
that was
pranks.
like, yeah, fun pranks. It wasn't
Right.
malicious trying to hurt
Right. It
or
was like,
try.
oh my God, that's so silly. And now it's like, how can I scare this person?
Yeah, the stuff that they're doing is just is dangerous,
Hmm.
where people can get hurt. Oh,
Right. And then you have people being deliberately harmed, unalived. And then what do we have? Corn.
mhm.
Corn.
Porn. Explain that.
You know what corn is? Just replace the C with another letter.
Oh, okay, the P word.
Yes, I'm just trying to like make sure
Yeah,
we don't
yeah,
say
yeah.
certain buzzwords.
Right.
So it's either death, destruction, harm, or corn,
Hmm.
right? It's because it's so addicting. It is so addicting,
Now
and
everybody has access to that on
everybody,
their
even
phone.
children, even
Right.
children.
Right. Because before you had to, I know when I was coming, you had to sneak and try to find it. And that was very rare, especially if you didn't live in a home where that was something that was kept around, you
Right.
know.
And then you know it was taboo.
Yeah, you knew it,
Right?
yeah, right. You didn't
And here there's no prohibition. It's just like, oh, well, it's there. So if
just
it's
drop it.
everywhere and I can find
Hey,
it so easily, this is not a big deal.
yeah, you're right.
And this is what they then expect in reality. Just like people see people getting hurt and think, oh, I can hurt someone else. These same people are seeing other people doing certain acts and they're just like, oh, I'm going to get someone to do that with me. And if they don't, I also watch violence. So in my mind, I'm already like in kind of a violent mode. I can hurt them.
And I'm noticing, well, it's been like this for a while. They're building more prisons for women now. That's on the rise.
Oh, I
They
mean, I
build,
knew they were building more prisons, but I really
yeah, a
didn't think
lot
it
of
was specifically for women.
because the women are catching up to the men in the violent character in the crime category, or they pretty much. When I learned about the increase in prisons for women, that was 10, 15 years ago. So now when you look at, I'm seeing things, on social media where, the things you wouldn't even think a woman would do in public, like just being violent and just straight off out of control. It's almost normal now that you'll see this type of behavior.
Hmm.
And what do you attribute that to? Like, what do you think is why it's a rise of women just being so, I guess, pulling out these masculine qualities? What about the society has created this in our women?
I don't know. I wouldn't even say it's a masculine quality. I would say, yeah, maybe associated more with men. Um, but I don't want to like speak negatively of masculine qualities. You
What I
know.
mean is the aggression, men in a physical way. Like if, for
Yeah.
instance, if two guys go and have words with each other and it gets heated, it's almost a guarantee eventually that's going to turn into a fight depending on the situation, right? When two men back in the day, you saw two women arguing, they just be arguing and that'd be it. Just be a bunch of words. Now it's almost on a level when two guys and they just lose their cool, the ego gets out of hand, and then next thing they're going to blows. That's
Hmm.
not to put a negative. It's just that going from words to violence is more typical behavior for men than
Mm.
it is for women,
Yeah.
right? So, because because we have that respect thing in us. Hey, you're not going to make me look like a punk type thing, and then so many men are in prison because their ego got bruised. So,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's like everyone is ready to just fight, like you said, ready to go to resort to violence almost
Mm-hmm.
immediately.
Yeah. I think it's, everyone's seeing it live streamed all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and
So it's
then we
based
have to look at like
in their brain.
hormones. Huh?
Basically, it's become normal, something normal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Violence has become hyper normalized.
Hmm.
Hyper normalized, not just normalized, hyper normalized. And
Right.
then you have, you know, the our hormones are off, like men and women. Your
Yeah.
brain isn't they're not it's not making the connections,
Right. Right. I would agree with
right?
that for sure.
So, and then with all this violence and everything that's happening and people struggling to make ends meet, um, the chemicals in our clothes, all this, our nervous system is not regulated.
Right.
And they know that. And so here we go again with how the dopamine track was hijacked. They know this. They know people's nervous system isn't regulated. Those go hand in hand.
Mm.
Because if you're constantly looking for that dopamine hit with the swipe or what have you, you need that. Your nervous system is not regulated. Your breathing isn't even proper. You're probably breathing more shallow. You're breathing more shallow. Your diaphragm's not doing what
Definitely.
it needs to be doing, right? You're not getting the oxygen, to the rest of your body, to your brain. You're deteriorating with every breath
Hmm.
or lack of quality breath, I would say.
Right. You're not taking those breaths and getting it in there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we have to be so careful, like it's really scary. And then the kids are watching this stuff, uh, and cartoons. I watch some of these cartoons, and I'm just
Yeah.
like,
They're
this
crazy.
is
They're not what we used to watch. For sure.
mm-mm,
They're not. And some of them have you see a lot of I guess what they would call witchcraft, demonism type content with the symbols in it. And
mm-hmm.
um, I remember my daughter was watching something called Gravity Falls.
Oh, I've
And
never
that
heard of that.
yeah, that was full of. I think it was on Netflix. That was full of symbols and rituals and spells in there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's stuff that they're pushing on the kids, and it's now it's just right out in the open. It's not like they're hiding it anymore. They're
Mm-hmm.
putting it in there. And if you don't know, because I think because a lot of us are so miseducated, a lot of people don't know that some of that stuff is just straight rituals in these cartoons that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you
Mm-hmm.
they're using words that you don't understand. You don't know what they're saying and programming
Mm-hmm.
to receive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yes, and
Yeah.
I believe that a lot of these things are being created, like you said, for control.
Mm-hmm.
Keep people's mind preoccupied. You could constantly use them as a resource.
Mm-hmm.
Keep them
You're constantly siphoning,
right.
constant siphoning.
This is why
Right.
most people can't become super successful because they got something attached to them that they can't see that's constantly sucking their labor out of them
Mm-hmm.
on all
Just
levels.
like it says in Timothy, the demons.
Hmm. Yeah, basically a parasitic demon, parasite.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
have parasites on the physical level, and we have a parasite on the spiritual level and social level.
Mm-hmm.
Parasites. Everything about it, your dollar is taxed. $1 is taxed so many different ways. When you get it, already that money has already been taxed. Then you
I
buy
know when they talk about other countries, oh, they tax too much. I'm like,
we're taxed on everything, no matter what we buy. There's a tax, and
mhm,
it's normal now. It's like it's totally normal to get taxed and then get taxed again. You probably $1 probably only get the 50 cents of that dollar is actually,
If that.
if that much. When you really look at how it gets siphoned off everywhere you go. I go to the store, I want to buy uh some milk. They're gonna tax that.
Hmm.
I gotta pay the price of the milk plus a tax. And you do that just over time. If you could keep track of that over your lifetime, you're just giving away millions of dollars. Just one person. This is how valuable you are to the system.
Hmm.
And I was talking about this in one of my little clip videos. I said systems are created by the creator, whoever created it, to benefit the creator. So every system that we interact with in this current system, everything they're telling you to do is to benefit them. Think about it. You got to go get insurance. You got to pay taxes on the property that you buy, your home. Everything they create is for their benefit.
Yep.
And they say you have to have it. Hey, you have to have this. If you, well, listen, they don't say you have to. If you purchase a home, if you purchase a car, you got to give us the tax money to go with it. So, and they
Hmm.
converted it into a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to drive an automobile. We allow you to drive.
Hmm. It's a
And
privilege to have a home,
the
to
judge
have
actually
to have
said
a safe place to rest your head.
the judge actually said that. I heard the judge say that it's a privilege to drive a car. If you don't have to buy a car, you can just walk. That's the way they look at it. So, but in situations like that, the manufacturers are in bed with the government. So those VIN numbers go into a governmental database and they become part of the state's control. So if you buy a car, you're basically buying partial ownership of the state having partial ownership of your car because of that VIN number is registered in their system as being a US VIN number.
Well, wouldn't it be that they own the car? You're pretty much just leasing it from them.
Pretty much because every year, even if you pay the car off, you still got to pay some form of a tax by way of registration or property taxes. Because some states
Hmm.
don't have property tax, like New York doesn't have a property tax, but you got to keep getting it inspected and registered. And that's every year. Millions
Hmm.
of people every month are registering vehicles that they're getting billions of. They probably, I would, we probably need to audit these states and see what they're actually getting in registration fees for cars on a monthly basis. When you think about that, millions of dollars are
It's
going
just more theft. It's
monthly.
just more.
Why is it that
Yeah,
they
monthly.
have what they
And then
need?
you have the tolls.
Oh yeah, the tolls are ridiculous.
And then
And
you
that
got
alone,
tickets.
millions of cars are going through those tolls daily. So if you just had a million car going through daily just at $1, we know none of those tolls are a dollar.
Hmm.
Oh, that's $1 million a day.
And here, $9 for
$9.
the
That's
for the congestion toll,
1 million
right?
cars. $9, $9 million a day just in tolls. And how come the streets look so crazy
Why are they
and
so dirty?
and
Why,
dirty?
why is the infrastructure so pathetic?
Because that money is not going to what they say it is.
It's not.
For
It's
sure,
not.
it's not.
And going back to corn,
Hmm.
are you familiar with OnlyFans?
Oh yeah, that's a big
Not
thing.
that that you know of it.
I
Let
know
me just
of it.
be very
I never
clear.
watched it. I just saw like content where there's girls they interview and they talk about how they get on there and people pay them to take off their clothes.
They're actually kidnapping women and putting them on these pages.
Wow.
Again, depravity. You keep on seeing like all this is okay. So it's like, all right, well, if there are women that are actually doing to get paid. So maybe let me kidnap this other woman and she probably enjoy it. Like it's just the morality compass is just going crazy.
Wow.
It's insane. So guess how much they made in revenue in 2023? Just throw a number out there.
Probably, I would say estimated probably in the billion,
So
billions.
this was in 2023, 6.63 billion.
Mm, that's a lot of money.
I
Just
encourage
to
everyone to
watch a
look up
show
who the CEO is.
that just to watch somebody take their clothes off.
Yeah. But I encourage people to look at who the CEO is.
Is that what they're doing?
And
Like, what is actually going on? Is it just
I don't, all I know is it's a corn site. That's it. I don't know if they're doing it with other people. I have no idea. All I know is it is not okay.
mm,
It is not okay. It's not okay for society. People think that that's normal. Again, that's hyper normalization of depravity. And, you know, it keeps on, like, boys are watching it, little boys. And then girls think, okay, well, I have to act this way because this is what he's going to like.
right?
It's really sad. But look, you have to look at who the CEO is.
Mm.
It's from a group of people that we cannot criticize. And then the money
Oh,
he the
okay.
money he gains, he funds the unaliving and the manipulation of politicians, the unaliving of innocent people, and the manipulation of politicians. And there's another corn site, same thing,
Oh,
same type of person from the same group of people
is
we
the
cannot
person
criticize.
male or female?
Oh, you're on the website now?
Yeah, I put in OnlyFans CEO, and right now
It's a
it's
male.
a woman. Is it? But it was a man. Was this
Well,
CEO?
then that woman is
It,
covering up, but
there was the founder was a guy, and
hmm,
then before this one person, Amara Gone is the last name. That's a woman. But the first guy was starts with an S.
yes.
Yes.
If
He was
yes,
up
I
until
believe that's what it is.
2021. He was the
And
CEO up until 2021.
well, I think he still is pretty much in the
Well, I
game,
think
but just
he
has to cover
probably
it
is.
up.
And he put I guess he put women in the front of it as a cover.
Yeah. And it's a religious figure, a
Mm,
religious leader.
mm,
And so here again, you have these hypocritical, false prophets,
mm-hmm. He was
right?
yeah.
Through hypocritical liars whose consciousnesses have been seared as with a hot iron. This is a religious leader who runs a corn site to then use that money to manipulate governments and to unalive innocent people. And
Mm,
it's all on this
mm-hmm.
or on the screen.
Yeah.
Like people really need to start looking like it's not just, oh, this is addicting. Why is it addicting? Who's benefiting? And how are they using that money, that commodity, which you are, how are they using you, siphoning off of you to then cause more harm?
Mhm.
Like it's a very intricate web.
So what do you suggest people do?
Uh, well, first they have to realize that they're addicts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like to actually leave my phone at home. So sometimes, like, my mother will call or a friend will call, and they're like, "How come we can't reach you?" Oh, I left my phone at home. I wanted to go for a walk.
Isn't that
I wanted
something
to go.
did when they can't reach you by phone?
They get
When
upset.
not too long ago we didn't have phones to walk around with. That's not too
It's a
long.
dopamine hit. It's the dopamine hit, though.
Like, I've been calling you, and they get upset.
Hmm.
Lately, I've done it twice in a week where I just walked out of the house without my phone, and I
Didn't you feel
didn't even bother
free?
to go back to get it. I'm not going back to get it. Whatever is going to be waiting. And then there was a time the anxiety that I would feel if I didn't have my phone. I'm like, why am I getting so anxious that I don't have this device? If I miss the call, I missed the call.
Hmm.
Because it's money. It might be. It'll be there.
Hmm.
It will
Even
be.
my mom's like, well, what if there's an emergency? Well, 20 years ago, there were plenty of
What do we
emergencies.
do?
I didn't have a phone.
Right. We what we do is we manufacture our urgency situation.
Hmm.
We man
Hmm.
because okay, there's an emergency. Typical emergency, especially if it's a medical emergency, the best people you need to be calling is a doctor or someone who can
Hmm.
help you, immediately.
Hmm.
Um, just thinking about that, where you didn't have the option of having a phone, and now you have that option, it becomes this thing like you made it a necessity.
Hmm.
I got to have my phone.
But that's the whole point.
Mm.
You're an addict. I gotta have it. I gotta
We,
have that
we
hit.
need to sue these guys because
But the thing is that they manufactured consent. So what can we
right.
do? So I leave my phone at home sometimes.
But we didn't get a
I,
warning that this could be addictive. Like now, you get warnings like about cigarettes,
mhm.
alcohol. We should have warnings with the phones.
There's so many warnings with the phones.
Right.
The list would be very long.
Yeah.
Um, People can get the blue blocking glasses,
Hmm.
right? So if at night, at least it's not keeping you awake because this actually, like, if you are on these devices with blue light within 2 hours of going to bed, it affects your melatonin, which then affects your sleep, which means
You
you can't
talking about like
you can't dream and you can't astroplane.
blue blocker gases?
Yeah, they're like red. I have to get a good brand
I need to get.
because there's a few brands that they say that they're good, and then I find out that they're not. So I have to do more research.
So they do.
I
They have
think
to be like the red lenses,
red or orange,
orange. Well, they look. These
right?
look kind of orange. I'm looking at some now.
Yeah, yeah. So I would get ones that are recommended by people who have do that health research, like Dr. Jack Cruz, the neurosurgeon. I think there's a brand that he specifically recommends. So I'm gonna have to look that up as well. So that's one thing. You can also reduce some of the blue light on your devices. So on my main computer, once it goes with the light of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So right now it's going to be yellow. So it goes with the sunset and sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
So that does help. We definitely need to ground more.
Yeah.
We need to be um, energized by the earth because we are part of the earth,
Mm-hmm.
right? Instead of relying on these things, um, and we have to be careful with what we consume. Are we watching things that make us feel good and inspired, or are we watching things that make us just want to get another hit?
Mm-hmm. I would
You
say
know,
people are doing it for the latter. They want to.
right? For sure. But if people start just thinking about it,
Mm-hmm.
am I actually learning things? Like me, I'm like an education junkie. Like I'm such a nerd. I want to learn more and more on a subject.
Right.
Like something that actually makes me a better therapist, that makes me, a better human being, um, something that inspires me, manifesting. So I'm constantly watching things like that or listening to things like that because there's so much depravity in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I going to offset from all that craziness? you
Right.
know. So the people have to really start being honest with themselves. And they have to, and with children, they got to stop exposing these kids to the screens at an early age,
Yeah, they're very addictive.
especially the first
I have
7 years.
a grandson. He was constantly on that thing. I had to say that, put that down, put it down. He listened when I told him that, but um, that's why it was good for them to get out and get away from the screens because they did not.
Hmm.
They left that stuff in the car, and they didn't even care about a screen when they had activities, outdoor activities that they were involved in. Didn't care about it.
Hmm. Well,
That's
think about it. You're also in the natural sunlight.
yeah, yeah.
So that really does affect your whole nervous system.
Hmm.
You're calmer with the natural sunlight. So you're not looking for that next hit.
Right.
And not
That
all kids.
was
There are
a
kids who
very
prefer
day yesterday.
the what was that?
It was a very sunny day yesterday,
Mhm.
and everybody was calm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, thank goodness they weren't just like, "Where's my phone? I need it now." Because there
no,
are kids
none
who
of
do
them.
that
They were
too.
not like that at all. They wanted to actually. They wanted to just be out there in the wave pool and things like that. I went. These are my grandchildren, so I bought these fast pass so we didn't have to wait online. I didn't even need that because all they wanted to do was the simple stuff: be in the lazy river in the wave pool. That's it. That's all they cared about was that pool.
And I bet they slept well last night too.
Yeah, yeah, they was out
Yeah.
very well.
Because when you go
I didn't
with the
bother
rhythm
me
of the
till
sun,
like 10 o'clock in the morning. Like I didn't bother. Yeah.
yeah. It's when you go with the rhythm of the sun,
Hmm.
you're gonna sleep better, and your eyes are getting that exposure. This is why I don't wear sunglasses
Hmm.
because then it's tricking my brain into thinking it's evening, and I
Yeah.
don't want that. I want my body to know it's time to stay up. I
Right.
need this vitamin D. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah, I have glasses that transition into sun glasses. That makes sense. Because when you think about it, you can stay in the sunlight if you don't have sunglasses. You can deal with it.
Mhm. Yeah. The only times I would say is when you're at the beach because you're getting the reflection of the water and then the sun, and you can actually burn your eyes, or if you're on a boat.
Oh,
Um, but on a regular basis, you don't. Like sometimes if it's really, really bright, I may use it when I'm driving just because, it's hard for me to drive like this.
mm,
But it's so rare that I use sunglasses. It is very rare. I think I have
right.
no, three pair of sunglasses, and I've had them for probably 10 years because I barely use them.
Yeah, I just have my regular glasses that transition. I do have a pair of sunglasses. I actually wore them for the first time probably in 5 years yesterday. Um, Yesterday was one of those days where they were warning you about the heat, but we were by water, so it didn't even matter.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I had to like my granddaughter, her the mom gave all of this sunscreen to put on, and she's spraying all this stuff on her. I was like, you don't need all of that. Don't.
No, that's actually carcinogen.
Right. I said, you don't need all of that. And she was like,
Hmm.
skin is gonna burn. I said, trust me, your skin's not gonna burn. It's not
Hmm.
going to burn. You will be perfectly okay. I woke up to that because I used to do that too. And why we do it is why? Because we program, we got commercials bombarding. Hey, protect yourself from natural sunlight, basically, is what they're saying.
Hmm.
You get died or get poisoned from something that helps plants grow, right? So, um, I was on a, I went to the Bahamas and I was on this excursion, a catamaran,
Hmm.
and I was the only dark skinned person on the boat. Everybody's putting suntan lotion on, and then I pull out mine to put not suntan, um,
Sunblock.
sunblock on, and I pull mine out and start putting it on. Then the guy pulls me to the side. One of the who was running the boat, who was same complexion as me. He's like, man, what are you putting that on for? I was like, so I won't get sunburned. He said, listen, I've been living here all my life, and I'm in the sun every day, and I've never been burnt. And when he said that, I snapped out of it. Like it was in that moment when he brought that to my attention. I said, that makes sense. And I never did it again.
Hmm.
It was just those words. Because then I started to use my critical thinking. Like, wait a minute. I'm not gonna get burned. So when I used to work at Time Warner Cable and I used to install cable and yeah, you out in the sun, especially in the summer, you out there on light poles and doing all kind of stuff. Um, and I went to see the doctor, and all the nurses was like, "What did you do to your skin? Your skin looks so good." But I was just in the sun, and I started drinking these infused waters. Like I would take fruit, put it in the water, let it soak.
Hmm.
I would take the jar and sit it in the sun with the fruit in it, and because some with the sun infuses it into the water, and that's all I was drinking. That was my drink, go-to
It
drink.
was sun charged.
Right. And it was just like amazed at my skin when
Hmm.
I didn't notice any differences, but they did. So yeah, I got to get back to doing that. Putting my water in the sun. Even if you don't do fruit, you could just put the water in the sun. Put it
Hmm.
but in a glass jar. It can't be in plastic. In a glass jar and just sit it in the sun. It's gonna get hot. Then bring it back in. If you want to cool it off, put it in the refrigerator and let it cool off. And it actually tastes different.
Hmm.
The water tastes different, and you can get it right out the tap. I don't recommend drinking tap water, but if you take the water out the tap, sit it in the sun, and till it gets the sun rays hit it, and you take that water back and drink it, it's going to taste totally different than if you drank it out of the tap. That water
Hmm.
that sun does purify that water, I believe, by just sitting in
Yeah,
it.
it does. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
They're saying if you get spring water and let it sit in the sun, it gets sun charged.
right. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to doing. I used to do that all the time, but you know how you do something, then you stop doing it, or I moved, and that's when I stopped doing it because I had a, and in my backyard, I get a lot of sun, so
Mm.
it's easy for me to do it now. I'm
Yeah, well, living in New York City,
mm-hmm.
it's hard to get sun
The
in
sun,
your apartment.
yeah, yeah, right,
And we don't have yards, or at least most people don't.
yeah, yeah. You don't have anywhere to really sit it where you can get that good sun
Hmm.
hitting it.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the downside of living in the city. I like New York. I grew up there, but I don't think I could ever live in the city again. If I ever moved north, it would have to be somewhere where I have space, I have a yard or something to do things
Yeah,
with. It has to be that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could live close to a park. I live close to, a park, and it's a nice park.
Yeah. Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be something to think about, because I could park my car in my driveway
Let's not
and
even talk about parking.
yeah. That's New York, man. When I was
It
there,
took me
did
it
it.
took me an hour to find parking this afternoon. Last night it took me an hour and a half to find parking.
Mm. Just think
So,
about all the time you're wasting just to park your car.
well, I that's when I call family or I listen to
Mm.
or a podcast, stuff where most people would be at home watching TV. I'm, consuming things that actually help me when I'm looking for parking. So like yesterday was listening to Veda Austin and her research on water and how
Right.
water is um, like the closest thing we have to God. So
Right.
like I'll listen to things like that.
Yeah.
But away, like I don't look at the screen obviously, I just have it playing
Right.
And with the kids that I work with, when I play music, I have it face down so they can't see the screen. We just hear the songs.
Right.
And sometimes they get upset. They're like, ah, and I'm like, nope. And after a few sessions, they already know.
They already know
We'll
they're not
listen to the song, but we're not watching any videos.
right. Yeah, that got to be tough for them because they're coming from a home where they're allowed to look at the screen, and then you come. That's not normal for them.
Oh
That's,
yeah, no, I've been bitten, I've been scratched, I've been kicked, I've been smacked.
isn't that
And then
something
after,
that they do that?
yeah, but then after a few sessions, they're fine. I remember I worked with
Mm,
triplets who always had to have the TV on.
mm-hmm.
And I said, no, we have to start shutting it off. The father got upset, like, oh, you're telling me what to do in my house. I said, do you want what I do to be effective? Or do you want them to zone out on this screen with blue light? And the mom, it was a Dominican couple. The mom came out and was like yelling at him in Spanish. And was just like, you leave your camera alone, blah, 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 blah. And after 2 weeks, when I would walk in, the, the one of the girls, it would be one of them, but sometimes it'd be all three of them. They would be like, "Papi, shut off the TV, shut off the TV. Raquel's here, shut off the TV,"
They just have the TV running all day, huh?
all day. But as soon as I walked
Being
in,
programmed with the same programs over and over.
yeah. But the kids, I loved it. All three girls, "Papi, TV off. Raquel's here, TV off." And they're like 2 years old, so they're like, "No ma, no ma televisión, papá."
My grandmother was like that. She kept it on one channel, and that was her routine from sun up to sundown. Same, and the news, the
Hmm.
soap operas, the news, then the regular programming. And if you turn that TV down, don't turn. They would get upset.
Yeah.
They had to see what was going on in the news every day.
Well, it's fear. It's fear corn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is,
It's that trauma based.
and it becomes a routine program. Like they do it every
Hmm.
out of habit,
Hmm.
and don't you dare try to change it. She would lose it if you turned it from the news.
Hmm.
If you change that
Hmm.
channel, don't you change that? I'm watching that. But I'm
Hmm.
like, they're saying the same thing they said 10 minutes ago. And the news is just going to keep telling the same stories over and over again.
Hmm.
All
Yep.
right. I think this was a good conversation. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'm sure there's plenty to talk about. We'll go on for the next show.
Right, right. Yeah, so tomorrow I'll be talking about this birthright citizen. I have a lot to talk about with that to straighten that up because a lot of people are in fear of losing citizenship. But do you understand what that really is? What are they talking about? What is the Constitution talking about when it says born and naturalized into the United States? And why did they even have to create that? For what? You know, so the illusion that they painted for everybody is that was a good thing to have that citizenship. It gave you some type of rights. And again, once again, the media is the one who spun it that way.
Hmm.
They just the amendments. Oh, that was for you, and it really wasn't. It really wasn't for us. It was for something, a sinister plot that they had
Hmm.
created back then. Why they even came up with that.
Hmm.
Anyway, but we'll talk about that tomorrow.
All
All
right. I
right,
look forward to
another
watching the show.
suggestion. Last week's show, I got a lot of people who emailed me and texted me, even comments on the videos that they really enjoyed the show. So there you go. There's some validation.
Yeah.
I
But it's not
like
a dopamine hit. It's not a dopamine hit.
it needed some type of encouragement. Some encouragement.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all right, well, we will talk. We pretty much talk every day. So All right. Well, okay, Raquel, you have a good night. And everybody
All
else,
right.
thanks for listening. Until next time, peace.
Good night.
Good night. My computer just froze up as soon as I
Yeah,
hit the.
that's what I was. That's why I was like, I forgot to say peace and much, much love. But I was just like, I'm not
Peace.
sure
That's
if
good. You can
if
still
he
talk.
if his
The show is still
hmm?
going. I was trying to
Oh, it's
play
still going.
video and it didn't do it.
Ah, well, since we're ending, paz y mucho mucho amor.
Oh, what does that mean?
Peace and much, much love.
Peace
Walter
and
Mercado.
I should have known that because I'm studying Spanish. And mucho, mucho. Say mucho gusto. Oh, yeah, I should have known what that meant. But I gotta actually talk to somebody like and go back and forth because I see it on the screen, but I'm still not holding on to the information. You
You gotta
know?
immerse yourself. You have to immerse yourself.
Yeah. So this thing is stuck, like for real. Yep, it's not responding. All right, peace, everybody.